Karen hired a tow truck for my car, then found out it belonged to the CIA. Some jobs require silence, not just secrecy, not just low profile. I'm talking the kind of silence where even your shadow has clearance. My name's Mason Carter. I'm 38 years old, and up until 2 months ago, I worked as a field analyst with a branch of the CIA, so quiet even the folks who trained me didn't ask follow-ups. My job, rural intelligence, logistics staging, transport, and property surveillance for off-grid ops. Translation, I drove the car, I set the perimeter, and I kept the peace where no one else was looking. After a decade of contracts in places that don't show up on maps, they gave me something rare, a sabbatical. Full pay, 6 months, anywhere I wanted. I picked Glenview Meadows, a peaceful, semi-gated community on the edge of Hill County, Texas. No fanfare, no HOA affiliation, just a quiet rental, a friendly landlord, and a driveway tucked between two oaks. I parked my black SUV, company-issued, encrypted plates, reinforced undercarriage right in front of my unit. And that's when I met Karen. She showed up on day 3, clipboard, aviators, lip gloss so thick it reflected the clouds. "You can't park there," she snapped. I blinked. "Pardon that car. It's unauthorized. This is a visual priority zone. It's my rental. The driveway's part of the lease." She smirked. "You're mistaken. The easement's under review for compliance. This isn't a free-for-all." I stepped forward. Calm, measured. "There's no HOA on this side of the subdivision. The county confirmed that before I moved in. Maybe not officially," she said, tapping her pen, "but we're forming a preservation council. Community standards are already being adopted." That was the first lie. It wouldn't be her last. I ignored her after that, but she didn't ignore me. Flyers started appearing on my windshield. Complaints about unauthorized vehicle appearance, warnings about curb fatigue. One note said, "We've observed your presence daily. The black car is triggering security concerns. Please relocate." It wasn't signed, but I knew her voice. Even in print, I sent a polite email to the landlord. He confirmed there is no active HOA, so I kept parking where I'd been told I could. Then came the tow truck. It was a Thursday morning. I was inside making coffee when I heard its chains clinking, a metallic groan, tires skidding across gravel. I walked outside just in time to see a dented yellow tow truck hitching my SUV at the rear wheels. Karen stood nearby, arms folded, watching like she was watching history unfold. "You touch that vehicle," I said, calm but firm, "and you'll regret it." The driver shrugged. "Lady says it's illegal. I got a call from HOA dispatch. There is no HOA." I said, Karen piped up, "There's an interim board, and we voted on visual congestion guidelines. This vehicle violates them." I didn't move. Not yet. I pulled my phone, opened a single app, and tapped emergency tag protocol. 30 seconds later, I heard it. 2 unmarked black sedans screeching around the corner. Fast. Karen's face shifted, not fear, confusion. Then Agent Doyle stepped out. Sunglasses, badge. "Step away from that vehicle." He barked. The tow guy dropped his lever like it was on fire. Karen took a step back. "What is this?" Doyle turned to me. "You activated ETP." I nodded. "Attempted extraction of protected asset, non-consensual removal?" "Confirmed," he said. Then looked at Karen. "Ma'am, you're in violation of multiple federal property interference codes." Karen blinked. "You're kidding." "I'm not," Doyle replied. "And that SUV is protected under the Classified Logistics Act of 2003. I thought it was just a black car." "You thought wrong." And that's when everything started to unravel. She should have walked away, right there, on that cracked driveway, with the tow truck driver stammering and federal agents pulling IDs. Karen had the chance to say sorry, blame it on miscommunication, and disappear behind her HOA flyers forever. But like every power-drunk HOA tyrant before her, she doubled down. "This is a neighborhood issue," she said sharply, her voice raised for the crowd that had started gathering on the sidewalk. That car has been here for weeks. It doesn't belong? This is our street? Agent Doyle, calm as a pond in January, slid his badge back into his jacket. Ma'am, the car belongs to the United States federal government, specifically a branch you don't have clearance to discuss. I didn't see a sticker. She huffed. Where's the placard? I checked the VIN. You ran the VIN, I asked, my voice low, steady. Karen didn't flinch. It was suspicious. I have a duty to keep this community safe. Doyle's jaw tensed. You committed a Class C federal offense by scanning classified vehicle identification tags. That alone could get you a summons. Oh, please, Karen rolled her eyes. He doesn't look like federal anything. I stepped forward. Karen, I haven't even told you my last name. You think I'm on sabbatical because I like cul-de-sacs? The tow driver unhooked the SUV so fast he nearly rolled into the curb. Agent Doyle pulled me aside. Mason, do you want to press? Not yet, I muttered. I want to see what she does next. You think she's that dumb? I think she's got too much pride to quit. Doyle smirked. We'll stay close. They left 10 minutes later. Karen stormed off in a huff, waving her clipboard like it was a constitutional document. The tow truck peeled out with an apology shouted through the open window. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't, not even close. 2 days later, I found a printed newsletter on every doorstep. The Meadow Sentinel Special Edition headline, Suspicious Vehicle Escapes. Lawful tow federal agents intimidate concerned citizen. The article accused me without using my name of operating a mysterious, unregistered vehicle, claiming I refused to answer HOA inquiries, and included a list of civic codes that had zero legal standing. She even quoted herself, if we don't act when the system fails, we are the system. I won't apologize for doing what's right. I could have laughed if I hadn't seen how fast people started treating me different. Neighbors stopped waving. A few started crossing the street when I walked by. A rumor spun that I was deep state, possibly watching them, or worse, some kind of fugitive hiding in plain sight. I'd seen misinformation campaigns before. I just never expected to be the subject of one. I made one call, not to Doyle, to my handler. Yeah, we still had those even on sabbatical. Burn is light so far, she said. She, want us to snuff it? No, I replied. Let her keep digging. If she wants to play spy games, I'm the wrong guy to mess with. Ruth, the landlord, called me a few hours later. She was in tears. She came to my house. Mason said I was harboring an illegal operative, that I could be named in a civil concealment charge. She even had this envelope, inside a forged legal notice, fake watermark, nonsense citations, but it looked real enough to scare someone who hadn't worked a decade inside black sites and briefings. I told Ruth to stay calm. Let me handle it. The next morning, I drove my SUV, still parked exactly where it had always been, over to the community meeting Karen had organized, held at the HOA Playground Pavilion. Naturally, 30 residents in lawn chairs, Karen in front, megaphone in hand. I walked up slow, calm, in full view. Karen saw me coming and puffed her chest. Oh, look, the mystery man returns. People chuckled uneasily. I stood in front of them, hands at my sides. I've kept quiet because I respect people's right to peace. I said, voice clear, calm. But what happened 2 days ago crossed a line. Karen violated federal protocol, endangered a government asset, and spread false claims about me, my work, and my vehicle. Karen opened her mouth too slow. I pulled out a flash drive and handed it to a man in the front row. Inside here is the real story. Security footage, legal documents. And the truth, Karen shouted. Don't open that. That's tampering. I faced her. I spoke to the Federal Security Office. You've already been logged. If you keep pressing, you're looking at felony impersonation, unlawful use of legal symbols, and harassment of a protected contractor. Her face drained. Someone whispered, wait, protected. The man with the flash drive plugged it into a laptop. Up came a still shot of the moment Karen handed a document to the tow truck driver, Her printed fake citation next to footage of agents arriving and identifying the SUV as federal property. Gasps echoed. Karen turned pale. She muttered something I didn't know. I thought, but no one was listening anymore. The meeting fell apart. Karen left red-faced and alone. But that wasn't the end, because what I found next made everything worse for her, and a whole lot more dangerous. Some people destroy themselves with pride. Others weaponize it. Karen wasn't just some overzealous neighbor drunk on power. Not anymore. After I exposed her HOA stunt at the pavilion meeting, I thought the worst was behind us. But I'd underestimated something critical. She wasn't just trying to punish me. She was trying to recruit others. 3 days after the confrontation, I found a white envelope taped to my front door. No name, no address, just one word handwritten across the flap: traitor. Inside was a printed pamphlet, full color, glossy paper. Reclaim our streets, secure Glenview from infiltration. Did you know one of your neighbors is not who he says he is? He refuses to disclose his employer. He drives an untraceable vehicle. He has weaponized law enforcement to intimidate peaceful residents. We say no more. Join the Glenview Neighborhood Action Council G&ACT today. It's time to protect our way of life. On the back, a website link, a sign-up form. Karen had launched a full-blown digital militia. Ruthie came running over 5 minutes after I found it. She slipped that under 3 doors on my block, she whispered, shaken. Some folks are talking about a petition to have you removed. I took a long breath. There's no HOA, there's no jurisdiction, but if she keeps pushing these lies— I know, now Ruthie said, but it doesn't matter what's true when she's loud. I pulled up the GNAC website. It wasn't just a sign-up page. It had profiles, members in good standing, pictures of residents with quotes about preserving the community from silent threats. My house had a red outline drawn around it on a map labeled Unverified Occupant Zone. They had discussion boards, voting tools, even downloadable door tags for community warning zones. One thread read, "He says he's CIA. That's what they always say. How do we know he's not deep state or worse?" Another, "I saw him talking to the mailman for too long. Suspicious. It would have been laughable if it hadn't been so dangerous." I called Agent Doyle. He wasn't surprised. "She's escalating." He said, "It happens. Some people can't handle being wrong. She's doubling down to protect her ego. But when they start naming you publicly, that's doxing. Illegal." "You want to file the paperwork?" I hesitated. "I'm not afraid of Karen," I said, "but I'm starting to think this wasn't just about me." "You're not wrong." He paused. "There's something you should know. A red flag popped up from your vehicle's plate scan 2 days ago, one that didn't originate from our office. Meaning someone outside the agency ran a trace on your SUV and spoofed it through a civilian system. That's a sophisticated move." My pulse quickened. "Karen doesn't have that tech. She doesn't—" Doyle agreed, "but someone in her circle might." That's when everything clicked. The rumors, the fake citations, the aggressive tow, the forced HOA. Karen wasn't just being petty. She was trying to force a security asset out of her neighborhood, and someone was helping her do it. That night, I parked my SUV inside a friend's garage across town. Then I went for a walk. No tracker, no tech, just a hoodie, a ball cap, and instinct. I circled the back end of Whispering Meadows and waited. At 11:43 p.m., a white van turned down my street. Same one that had shown up in my driveway cam the week Duke got shot. Unmarked, blacked out windows. And a man with a laptop in the passenger seat. I followed them quiet, through the trees. They stopped outside Karen's house. She came out in a robe, smiled, handed something through the window. I took pictures from my burner phone and disappeared before they pulled off. Next morning, I sent the shot straight to Doyle. He called back 15 minutes later. "That van belongs to a third-party security contractor we've flagged before, used by 2 front groups in the past. One's a shell for corporate asset retrieval. The other is blacklisted for interfering in domestic federal ops. In English, Karen's been working with Mercs. I thought it was over then, that the agency would step in, freeze the situation, move me out, but what they said next made my blood go cold. Your presence was part of an unspoken surveillance float for a classified op involving potential domestic overreach by neighborhood enforcement bodies. We didn't expect them to move on you directly, but now we need you to stay, in the middle of a fake HOA war zone, with Karen acting as ringleader and third-party enforcers, digging through my life like it was a sandbox. My job had just changed. I wasn't just the target, I was now the bait. So I made my own move. I printed 300 copies of a single-page flyer. It read, "The Real Threat in Glenview." Ever wonder why your neighbor got fined for having a mailbox flag the wrong color? Or why a tow truck nearly removed a government vehicle from private property? You're being manipulated. Karen Stonemeyer is running an illegal, unrecognized enforcement body. She has falsified citations, forged legal documents, and is in contact with known surveillance contractors flagged by federal agencies. Ask yourself, why does she fear transparency? Don't sign the GNAC pledge. You're giving her more power than she's ever earned. Truth belongs to everyone, not just those with a megaphone. Ruthie helped me post them. One at every mailbox, every lamppost, every park bench. By noon, the whispers had turned. By dinner, Karen's website was flooded with questions. And by nightfall, she went on live video to clear the air and made it 10 times worse. They always crack on camera. Karen went live on the GNAC website at 7:05 p.m. sharp. She stood in front of the clubhouse's Community Integrity Board banner, face powdered, voice syrupy smooth. "Friends of Glenview," she began, "we're under attack, not from outside but from someone among us. A person who claims legal authority, yet refuses transparency. A person whose car doesn't have plates. You can Google who moved in and started circling our children's bus stops with tinted windows and recording equipment. Lie, flat out lie." I watched from my phone on Ruthie's porch while sipping a cold beer. Because what Karen didn't know was that I had already turned her clubhouse into a listening post. 2 days earlier, I installed a mic in the ceiling vent, standard counter surveillance equipment, legal when used to monitor someone plotting interference with federal operations. I knew I'd get heat later. I didn't care. The moment she handed classified trace data to a third-party contractor, she lost her right to privacy. The mic recorded every planning session, every whisper, every moment of her unraveling. Her live broadcast lasted 12 minutes, and in those 12 minutes, she lied about the nature of my vehicle. Accused a federal agency of targeting patriots, claimed authority as a recognized civilian compliance officer, named 2 other neighbors as neighborhood threats, including a single mother and a retired firefighter. And worst of all, she announced the creation of the Neighborhood Protection Unit, a volunteer patrol division that would monitor non-conforming households with body cams and rapid response tactics. Yep, she said it, on camera, to 200 live viewers, and it was being recorded by federal servers. Agent Doyle called me the second she signed off. "Tell me you got it." "Every word," I said. There was a pause. "Your orders are confirmed," he said. "Release it." The next morning, I posted a short clip to the Glenview Facebook group and local community board. This is what Karen calls keeping you safe. The 42-second edit showed Karen naming children's bus stops, listing non-conforming homes, and suggesting armed volunteers patrol known problem areas. The comment section exploded. "This is a literal militia pitch. She's off her rocker. I can't believe she said that about Donna's kid. Can we sue her by noon?" The town paper picked it up. By 2 p.m., the Hill County Sheriff's Office released a public notice. The Glenview Neighborhood Action Council is not an official body and has no legal enforcement authority. Any claims made by this organization are not recognized under county, state, or federal law. Karen tried to walk it back. She called it a performance, said it was satire to make a point, that the live stream was edited deceptively, but it was too late. Because while she was scrambling on Facebook, federal agents were knocking on her door. They didn't arrest her, not yet, but they served her with a federal cease and desist. Agent Doyle told me she stood in the doorway in leopard print leggings and fuzzy slippers, trying to argue constitutional law with a federal prosecutor. "You're targeting me for being a woman," she reportedly shouted. "You're being investigated for impersonating federal enforcement," the agent calmly replied. Her world collapsed fast after that. The GNAC website was deactivated by the hosting platform. Her protection unit was disbanded before it launched. The fake citations she issued were voided, and everyone she threatened was granted free legal assistance by a civil liberties group that caught wind of the mess. Even her HOA committee, which never had real power to begin with, voted to remove her as interim head. She fought it, of course, said she had a constitutional right to leadership, but they laughed her out of her own meeting, and I had it all on video. I figured that would be the end, but no. She showed up one last time, 3 days after the takedown. I came home to find Karen standing in my driveway, alone, hair a mess, makeup running. "You think this is over," she hissed. "I see you. You don't belong here." "You're right," I said, unlocking my door. "I know who you really are." I turned, looked her in the eye. "Then you know I'm being very generous right now." She stepped back. "You should be in a cell," she said. "No," I replied. "I should be gone already. But I stayed to make sure people like you don't get to do this again." I watched her walk off slow, shaking, unraveling, not in handcuffs, but in shame. The day Karen left Glenview, it rained. The kind of slow, soaking rain that hushes the world, like the land itself was finally ready to exhale. No sirens, no police escort, just a moving truck, a sour expression, and a woman who mistook a clipboard for power. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't look anyone in the eye. She just vanished like a bad signal, fading from a radio tower no one tuned into anymore. Agent Doyle called that morning. "She's relocating to a different state, part of a conditional agreement to drop further federal charges." I nodded slowly. "So she walks." "She walks," Doyle confirmed, "but she'll never be allowed to operate in any community enforcement role again. Anywhere. She's flagged. And the third-party surveillance van contractor revoked their license after we released footage to the oversight board. They're under audit now. IRS, too." I leaned back in my chair. "Guess the clipboard mafia didn't expect that level of karma." He chuckled. "You handled yourself better than most ops I've run. Good training, good instincts." The week after she left, the neighbors came out, one by one, some with casseroles, others with folded apology letters, a few just with a handshake and a glance that said, "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I didn't hold it against them." That's the thing about fear. People don't always know when they're being ruled by it. Until they're free, the Glenview community officially dissolved the last remnants of the fake HOA. Ruthie helped set up a real neighborhood advisory board, voluntary, transparent, harmless, more cookouts, fewer citations. They asked me to be part of it. I declined. I think I filled my quota of secret councils. I told them. Instead, I did what I'd planned to do before this all started. I went quiet again. Not gone, but low. No more ops. No more investigations. Just long walks. Books I never finished. Mornings with black coffee and real silence, not the kind you earn with a weapon, but the kind that comes when you finally feel safe enough to exhale. Micah from next door started waving again. Ruthie planted flowers along the edge of my driveway. The car's still there, still black, still untouchable. Sometimes I'd catch people slowing down when they passed, eyes narrowing like they were trying to solve a puzzle too late in the game. And every now and then, I'd smile to myself and think, you can tow a car, but you can't tow the truth. A month later, I got a letter from a woman in Vermont. We had a Karen like that too. She wrote, but we never fought back. We let it grow until it drove good people out. I read your story in a community forum. You helped me find my voice. We shut ours down last week. The story went further than I ever expected. National forums, news write-ups, a podcast episode called The HOA That Tried to Tow the CIA. even a short documentary. I never gave interviews, never used my real name, but the message spread anyway, not because of who I was, but because of who she was and who she tried to become. People forget that authority isn't about titles or forms or committees. It's about trust. And when someone abuses that trust, when they twist it into fear, when they hide it behind paperwork and fake acronyms, they don't just break the rules. They break the community. But sometimes the community fights back. Have you ever faced someone who tried to control with fear? Have you seen power misused in your neighborhood? Share your story. Share this one. Speak your truth. Because authority means nothing without accountability, and silence only empowers the clipboard tyrants. Let's draw the line. Together.